Señor Primer Ministro, ¿qué papel considera usted que Colombia pueda jugar en la zona del Caribe en particular y en general el Pacto Andino con relación también a esta zona del Caribe?
What role do you think the Andean group can play in Colombia in particular with respect to Jamaica and the Caribbean?
Well, I think that the entire Latin American system has to recognize that in the Caribbean there is a growing block of regional influence within the Latin American system. A large number of countries are becoming independent, and most of these are mini-states. There are already 13 independent countries in the Caribbean network, and 5 more are to become independent shortly, which would make 18, and these together would be as large as the number of independent countries in all of the rest of Latin America. Many of these countries are very, very small. In fact, one, which is likely to become independent shortly, would have a population of only 6,000 persons. While they are democratic, for the large part, they are also very fragile, in the sense that because they are democratic, they are tolerant of other ideologies, and therefore, by virtue of the tolerance that they have built into their systems, other ideologies can have the opportunity to take root and to have influence. Now, in very small countries, it only takes a little bit of influence to sway an electorate, as against large countries. Therefore, it is very necessary that these small and fragile countries be supported as much as possible in strengthening their economies, so that the type of ideologies that feed on discontent and feed on poverty and feed on lack of development can't take root. It is important, therefore, for the Andean group, among the rest of Latin America, to give economic support to the Caribbean area, because the Caribbean is the bridge between North and South America, and the influences that can develop in the Caribbean could have influence on their own domestic political and economic situations in the long run. I have, in fact, asked or called for the establishment of what I call a Marshall Plan type program of assistance to the Caribbean and Central America, which I hope would be of interest to the Latin American countries to support, as well as for the rest of the Western world who also have an interest in the stability of the region. The fact of the matter is that a good part of the necessary funds for such a plan is already forthcoming from Venezuela and Mexico, and to a certain extent from Trinidad and Tobago, by way of the oil facilities which they have created. It is left to the rest of Latin America and the rest of the Western industrial world to come up with the rest of the funds which could provide a substantial impact on the economies of the Caribbean and Central American nations.
Señor Primer Ministro, ¿retirará usted a Jamaica del movimiento de los países no alineados y lo acercará, en caso afirmativo, de nuevo al bloque occidental?
Will you withdraw Jamaica from the non-aligned nation movement and in turn make closer ties with the Western Hemisphere?
No, definitely not. When my party was the government of Jamaica in the 1960s, we introduced Jamaica to the Group of 77, which has since become known as the Non-Aligned Movement. We played an integral role in that movement, and we will continue to play an integral role in that movement. We are very supportive of the Non-Aligned Movement, but we are supportive of a genuine non-aligned movement. We're not supportive of the trend that has been developing within the non-aligned movement to make it a part of either of the two major blocks. We used to play a role which was well regarded and well considered within the movement of assisting in the development of solutions, in conciliation in problems. We didn't take a very high profile in the movement. The previous government, which we have now replaced, took a high profile in the non-aligned movement by being an advocate for one position. We don't believe that the best role that a country like Jamaica can play is by being an advocate of a position, but rather to be the type of country that can assist in finding solutions when all the advocates have had their say as to what they believe the solutions are. Somebody has to then sit down to try to put things together and come up with the compromise solutions that is practical and can make things work. We used to play that role among other countries in the past, and we want to and expect to resume that position in the non-aligned movement again.
Señor Primer Ministro, Jamaica como Colombia tienen un problema con relación a la marihuana. ¿Cree usted que una unión entre estos dos países con el fin de combatirla puede ser útil, y qué posiciones y qué medidas está tomando su gobierno con el fin de parar este tráfico ilegal de droga?
You well know Colombia as well as Jamaica have problems with the marijuana trade, the illegal marijuana trade. Would you in any moment consider some type of alliance with Colombia to try to come up with some solutions to solve this problem? And if so, what would you consider be those solutions?
Well, we would be very interested in talking with your government in terms of how they are dealing with the problem. We are dealing with it within the best of our capabilities. Our capabilities, however, are not very great because we are not the type of country that has a very large security force establishment. We have a small security force. And since this is a matter that really has to be dealt with at the level of security enforcement, we don't have a great capability to deal with it. But within the capabilities that we have, we are struggling with it, and we have some areas of success and some areas of failure. To the extent that your government may have new ideas and new approaches, and collaboration can be useful in dealing with it, we, I think, could find some area of mutual interest in collaboration.
En Colombia, el presidente de una agremiación, la Asociación Nacional de Industrias Financieras, ANIF, propone la legalización de la marihuana con el fin de que ese dinero que entra por concepto de la droga entre al país legalmente, y podría ser al mismo tiempo una de las maneras de eliminar la marihuana. ¿Qué opinaría usted de la legalización de ella?
One of the private sector associations in Colombia has proposed to legalize marijuana, basically because the foreign exchange receipts that would flow into the country would be serving as a source of foreign exchange. What do you think, in general terms, about this type of solution for the marijuana trade?
Well, we have had that proposal here too for exactly the same reason and by exactly the same type of organization. I don't think that legalization of marijuana traffic, that is the buying and selling of it, is something that could be contemplated. You would then be dealing with a situation in which the producing country has legalized the growing and selling, and certainly the importing country has not. It would then certainly raise very serious international conflicts. This is quite apart from the fact that what we're talking about is a serious drug which, in the minds of many people and as a result of many studies, has dangerous implications. There are some studies and some people who do not believe that there are dangerous implications in the use of marijuana. But let us set that aside as an area of controversy.